See, now this is how you write a villain origin story. Hello, my name is Jason, and I am currently trying to read all of the Star Wars books. Or at least the good ones. There's like 400 of them, and I just finished reading Path of Destruction by Drew Karpyshyn, so let's talk about it. This is the first book in the Darth Bane series, and it takes place a little over 1,000 years before the events of the movies. Which I find kind of interesting because I feel like all the technology is exactly the same. The Star Wars universe basically invented spaceships and doors that open and close really fast and said, no, we're good, we don't need to invent anything new ever again. In the book, we follow Dessel. He works in the mines, he's basically a nobody. That is until one day he ends up on the run and joins the Sith army. You see, there's this big war going on between the Sith and the Jedi. Yeah, the Star Wars universe hasn't really come very far in the way of intergalactic conflicts either. Dessel ends up at a Sith academy where he eventually renounces his name and becomes Bane. But as he starts to learn more about the ways of the Sith, he realizes that the way that the Sith are currently running things isn't really his style. There's simply too many of them. And Bane starts to believe that the Sith don't need an army. In fact, they would be at their strongest if there were simply two of them. A master and an apprentice. What ends up transpiring feels like a mirror version of Revenge of the Sith, as we watch this new Sith master essentially destroy his order in order to rebuild it. I really enjoyed this book. In fact, this is easily my favorite Star Wars book I've read so far. This is a villain origin story where the villain is actually super evil. I feel like so many villain origin stories end up trying to make their villains like redeemable. No, he's a villain. Darth Bane is a bad guy. And this book leans really heavily into it. It goes there. And I really appreciated that. And not only Bane, but there are also a bunch of other evil side characters around him. And watching them all try to like out-evil each other is pretty fun. This book also has really strong ties to the Old Republic and made me think I might need to play that game. Of all the Star Wars books I've read so far, this one also feels the more like a classic fantasy story. Darth Bane is essentially an evil wizard rising from the ranks of a nobody to an epic somebody. And to do this, he's looking way back into the history of the Sith. And this often takes the shape of exploring long-lost ruins in order to uncover buried secrets. I often felt like I was reading a really good dark fantasy story. So much so that every time they cut back to the Jedi-Sith war and the spaceships and everything, I had to be like, oh right, this is a Star Wars book. What's really interesting is that this is the first in a trilogy, and I feel like Darth Bane has gone pretty darn evil so far. And considering some of the stuff he pulls off in this book, I have to wonder, how does he possibly top that in the next two books? My biggest recommendation with this book is that I would say don't look up fan art of Darth Bane. Because here I was reading along thinking, you know what, he's dark and broody, kinda hot, I could fix him. But then I looked up fan art, and you know what? He's not hot. And that made me really sad. What's even the point of fixing him if he's not hot? Don't worry, I'll get over it. I just need some time. But that aside, I really enjoyed this a lot. Considering I'm not the biggest Jedi fan, I kind of assumed I would enjoy books about the Sith, but it's nice to have that confirmed by this book. And honestly, it made me want to read more Sith books, so I will need to explore that. Have you read the Darth Bane trilogy? What are your thoughts? Should I play the Old Republic games? And what Star Wars books do you think should be on my list? And before you say it, I know a bunch of you want me to read the Han Solo books. Don't worry, I finally bought them. I just don't know when exactly I'm gonna get to them.